that was UP's Alma Mater song composed by Nicanor Abelardo. Now, the UP Centennial is about to come to an end with all its celebrations. So it's time to take stock of what is a momentous event for UP alumni. I'm Manolo, Quezon, the Explainer. This is the Explainer, where we explain why issues are issues. Now, our explainee tonight is someone who has joined us before, ANC producer and UP alumnus, Roby Pilares. Welcome back to the show, Roby.
Good evening, Manolo. It's great to be back.
Well, I understand you've been to 2 campuses.
Right. I spent my first 3 years at UP Manila, then my last 2 years at UP Diliman.
Okay, so you have lots of stories to tell us tonight, hopefully. Now, we're also joined in the studio by members of the UP Cinema Society or organization? Organization. Now, our discussion on what the country's premier state university is celebrating comes after this. If you look at any gathering of officialdom, both young and old, you'll notice that many of our political movers and shakers went to the University of the Philippines. Now, aside from business, the sciences, and the arts, it is in our political life that UP has had a durable and at times controversial impact on our development as a nation. That's because the University of the Philippines from the very start was meant to provide the leaders of our country. Now, our great revolutionary thinkers like Mabini believed that in contrast to the native ignorance fostered by the religious schools, there should be institutions for secular learning established by our First Republic. But those efforts never seriously got off the ground. It took the first Philippine Assembly to pass legislation establishing a non-sectarian, secular state university which would self-consciously produce the bureaucrats, professionals, artists, and scholars a modern state needs to function. Now, this reminds me of a book by Pierre Bourdieu titled The State Nobility, Elite Schools in the Field of Power. Now, Bourdieu argues that the French preparatory schools, the schools that prepare students to take the concours and enter the grandes écoles in France, systematically produced an elite, noble class through their specific pedagogical or teaching techniques and cultural mores, such as the traditions enforced in the school. Now, first they did this by putting the students in the school and segregating and isolating them from the rest of society. Campus life, including dorm life, is a time of socialization, but also indoctrination. Now, this restriction, Bourdieu argues, creates a monopoly of power which, quote, when recognized, is converted into a nobility, end quote. Now, this group practices magical shareholding. They claim the symbolic capital of the collective group and of each individual member. Now, in the case of UP, there is the concept of the Eskolar ng Bayan, for example. Second, they have a common culture, slang, jokes, manners, and a history transmitted through enculturization and hazing that imparts a sense of social harmony and camaraderie that alumni continue to reference and use throughout their lives and careers. Now, here, in the local context, enter your frats and sororities, clubs and orgs, the tambayan and rumble culture, and all that it connotes in terms of connections that can shortcut formal regulations later on in life. Third, the teachers who dedicate their lives to their students teach specifically for the concours by primarily lecturing and piling work on their students. Now, according to Bourdieu, competition, survival, and efficiency are stressed, and there is no expectation that the students will later remember or further research what they learned in lectures. Now, this general knowledge of the things the elite believes are good for people in powerful positions to know is more important than specific technical knowledge, which is taught at the university. Again, refer to the supposed nationalism and service orientation of UP. Now, the jobs university graduates will get will require them to have technical knowledge, of course, while the jobs graduates of the grandes écoles in the French system will require them to have an elite degree, a piece of symbolic capital. A simple demonstration of this is one comment I ever heard when someone told another friend that they'd passed the UPCAT. "Oh, you've got into UP," they said. you will have a good life. So when we return, UP in our national life.
Narito kami nagpupugay sa universidad ng aming buhay. Ikaw pa rin ang binabalikan, di pa rin malilimutan. Ikaw ang UP naming mahal. Salamat sa iyong mga guro. Salamat sa inyong pagtuturo. Taglay niyo ang kahusayan, taglay niyo ang karunungan. Tinubog niyo kami sa kabutihan. Sandaan taon na tayo, lagi ka pa rin sa aming puso. Kaya't kami sumasaludo. UP, ang galing mo.
That was the UP Centennial Song. Now, in front of every UP campus, you will see this statue, the Oblations, sculpted by Guillermo Tolentino and commissioned in 1935 by this man. We'll be seeing on your screen, Rafael Palma, university president and the man who perhaps did the most to encourage UP's reputation as a place not just for producing artists, scientists, bureaucrats, soldiers, and politicians, but a place where a secular, republican, and democratic, free-thinking society which cherishes academic freedom holds sway. Now, this culture has flourished despite war, which ravaged its campus and alumni in World War II, and despite dictatorship. Now, the first generation of UP students like Manuel Rojas or Carlos P. Romulo were overwhelmingly American in orientation, preferring debate within the existing system to accomplish change. The UP of the 1920s and 1930s in particular became the training ground for a new generation of middle-class leaders, professionals in orientation and not necessarily from the landed class that had controlled power up to then. The next generation was exemplified by this gentleman, Ferdinand Marcos, and he marked a transition in UP's culture and a group of students who were less impressed with American ways of doing things and who were discovering the violent underside represented by the fraternities of the system they were expected to inherit and lead. So on the one hand, people like Marcos learned to be clever lawyers, but also learned that to get ahead in life, the rules were bendable if you knew the right people. By the 1960s, of course, the old assumptions that democratic discourse was the way to go was being challenged. A new generation of young people were on the march, literally looking to Mao rather than Jefferson, and who questioned everything that their elders stood for. But even as the first quarter storm, radicalism, and revolutionary thinking characterized UP in the 60s,